So I'm here in Manchester on a very, very cold day, which I'm told by the Northerners that I'm talking to isn't actually that cold at all. And I'm here with Nick Buckley, MBE, who is founder of the charity The Mancunian Way, that deals with homelessness in a very different way. You're going to tell me more about that in a minute. And also, you've stood for mayor as a Reform candidate, and you may be standing again, so we can possibly. He's thinking about it. So, Nick, why is it different how you deal with homelessness as opposed to other people and other charities and stuff like that? And why do you always get into trouble all the time?
I always get into trouble because I speak my mind.
Yeah.
I'm one of those silly people who think I'm a free person living in a free country
you don't want
with
to
freedom
think
of
that.
speech, and obviously we're not anymore.
No.
I get into trouble really because I'm a big believer in personal responsibility. I'm tired of other people trying to fix other people's problems instead of looking internally and fixing their own stuff.
Okay.
We've got too many people who want to be amateur social workers. That's why we have lots of Facebook groups coming out to Man City Centre thinking a sandwich and a cup of tea is going to fix your problem as a rough sleeper. And the answer is, if a sandwich was going to sort your life out, we'd have solved the problem by now. We don't have people going to A&E or to a cancer ward giving them Mars bars or cans of Coke thinking, there you go love, I've just sorted your cancer out. So why do we think a sandwich or a Mars bar will sort someone out living on the streets who's got severe mental health issues, a drug dependency issue, has been failing for decades, has failed education, failed employment, failed every relationship they had, and the family's turned against them. And you think a meal deal is going to solve that person's problems. But we're always looking for simple solutions for complicated issues. And the answer is getting to know that person, unpicking their problems. And this will take years for some of these individuals. And it's about teaching them how to accept responsibility for their lives.
Yeah.
And the easiest way I talk to people about this is, instead of giving someone a cup of tea, ask them, do you want tea or coffee, mate? Do you want sugar? Do you want milk? Let them make a decision that affects them.
Yeah.
Don't impose what you think they want on them, because you've just chipped away a little bit more of their personal responsibility, their self-worth.
Yeah, they can't even choose whether they want to have a cup of tea or not. And this view is not trendy at the moment at all. It's not very woke. And we seem to say, I've said this loads of times, we've got a uni government, we've got one party, or I believe we have almost a one-party system at the moment. And it's not about taking personal responsibility, is it? It's about printing money and handing it out. And it's not just the people who are on the lowest social strata, the people who are trying to build themselves up, but everybody. Lee Anderson said the other day that 55% of households take out more than they put in tax. So it's almost like that is permeating that viewpoint and making your viewpoint and my viewpoint and Lee Anderson's viewpoint really, really untrendy at the moment. Do you agree with that?
I do, but you have to understand why politicians are doing this.
Okay.
So politicians are spending all our money on some of these social issues, not to solve them, because I honestly believe most of them don't care.
No.
I'm not saying they're against these individuals, they just don't care. Because these individuals, the lower down the economic scale you go and the more problems you've got, the less likely you are to vote. So you're not important to a politician, you don't vote. But who do vote are the woke idiots who will complain if these people say they're hungry, or say they can't afford Sky TV, or can't buy the new iPhone. You'll get the middle class, woke fools moaning. They may not vote for you as a politician. So government throws money at these problems not to cure them, but to keep the woke middle class happy that it looks like we're doing something.
To buy votes. So do you think, this is where I don't get the whole net zero obsession, because the net zero obsession affects everybody. It makes everyone colder and poorer. People are starting to see that now with their energy prices and rampant inflation, food prices and everything else. So people are actually seeing that it's maybe not such a fantastic thing, net zero, but it is the woke virtue signalling element of it that buys the votes, presumably. I don't know. What do you think about the whole net zero stuff? Should it be a priority over people heating and eating, for example?
I've never believed in the net zero agenda.
Okay.
It's for me, it's silliness. But it's been going for decades.
Yeah.
So decades and decades. The reason why it's a problem today is because we've had it so good for so long, we could throw money at these silly projects and agendas.
Subsidies.
And nobody realised we're throwing money because everybody was doing okay.
Yeah.
But we took it to the limit of what we could have financially afford, and then we had problems, as in Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
We get cold spells.
Yeah.
The world goes into recession. We have a problem. There's always a problem coming down the track.
Yeah.
Always. But we had no leeway anymore, and all of a sudden people are turning against the green agenda because it's hitting them in the pocket.
Well, absolutely, but don't forget that before the invasion of the Ukraine, energy prices had quadrupled, if not more, in the year before.
Yep.
And a lot of that is to do with us madly blowing up our remaining coal-fired power stations. I mean, you had politicians standing there pressing the button and blowing them up. But we're not mining anymore. And of course, the main thing, especially for up here, which is such a shame, we're not fracking. Of course, it was going to happen under Liz Truss. Rishi turned it over straight away. At the hustings, he said he was going to bring it in, got into government, overturned Liz Truss straight away.
What you need to understand about all politicians, especially the ones in the UK, they live on a 4 or 5 year political cycle. So all they care about is the next election.
Yeah.
Hence why we're in this mess in the first place. So people 20 years ago weren't planning for energy needs of today. They were planning on what the voters think of pink and cuddly today, because I want to be elected in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
So it's always short-termism.
Yeah.
And the last time we had somebody who was looking long-term was Thatcher.
Yeah.
We don't have politicians with a vision anymore. The last politician in the UK who had a vision was Jeremy Corbyn. I never would have voted for the man, but at least he stood there and went, this is the vision I have. This is where I'm taking the nation. If you don't like it, don't vote for me.
Do you know what? He was a Brexiteer. I always said if he, not that I necessarily wanted him to win at all, but if he'd stood by his convictions that he actually wanted to leave the European Union, he would have won that election. No ifs, no buts.
He would have been overturned by his party before election ever would have been called. They would have turfed him out. So again, he ended up falling for short-termism, as in, I just want to stay in post.
Yeah, yeah.
I want a politician who says, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, don't vote for me. And when I get in, I'm doing these things.
Yeah.
And if you don't like what I do once I'm in, vote me out, because I'm not changing what I'm going to do or what I think. Vote me out.
Absolutely. But Nick Clegg, he famously said 10 years ago, oh, there's no point doing nuclear because it won't be ready until 2020 or 2021. Well,
Here
hello.
we are, yes.
Here we are.
And now we need it.
We could have been on stream. It's absolute madness. But you want the Tories to lose, don't you? You want them to lose badly. Why is that?
I want the Tories to lose because they're slowly killing the country.
Okay.
So I'm tired of people going, I'll vote for the lesser of two evils. Well, you're still getting evil, so don't vote for the lesser of two evils. When I use the word evil, I don't necessarily mean
I know you don't.
Evil.
I get it, I understand.
I want the Tories to lose. I want the Tories to lose bad. So Labour get in. First time ever I've ever said I want Labour to get in.
Okay.
And that's not because I support Labour. That's because Labour will destroy the country quicker. So let's get to rock bottom quicker instead of what the Tories are doing, which are taking decades. Once we hit rock bottom, I'm hoping a new leader will come forward, someone we've not heard of at the moment, a Thatcher 2.0, and we'll go.
Does it have to be a girl?
I've fallen for this now with Theresa May and Liz Truss, thinking, oh, come on, I hope you win because you're going to do the... And it's like, oh, you're just a pound shop version. So it doesn't have to be a woman. I just want someone who turns up, who's not popular, who just says, this is what we're doing because this is what we need. I need someone who puts the country first and not their political career first. It's a bit like a parent who says to their child, if you can eat as many sweets and cakes as you want because I love you and I'm going to model coddle you.
You're absolutely
And then when they're 16 years old and they've got diabetes and they're 18 stone.
And they can't get in normal clothes.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you've done that to your child. You did that out of love and be kind and compassionate. But really what you were doing was you're making your life easier as a parent. And we have governments and politicians who are just trying to make their life easier as a politician and taking the easy solutions that they hope get them elected in 2, 3, 4 years' time, instead of thinking 10, 20, 30, 50 years ahead for the sake of the country. Where are the patriots? Where are the leaders who are going to improve the country for the long term, not the short term?
I think the problem with net zero policy, from my perspective, and what I talk about a lot in the media, is all of the parties have the same policies. And you were saying about voting people out and stuff like that. What if you can't? What if they all seem to be signed up to this mad agenda that just seems totally determined to impoverish people? And actually, it's a real attack on working class people, because working class people are not going to be driving in a few years' time. There's no ifs or buts about that. Kia, who is the 6th biggest manufacturer of electric vehicles in this country, yesterday was in the Times saying basically, you know, people on a low income, even a medium income, are not going to be able to drive these vehicles. We cannot produce a proper car for under 40 grand. Working class people, the government don't care about them, do they? They don't care about them.
They don't at the moment because the government are always several years behind the curve and they think this is popular. They see Greta Thunberg on TV and go, oh, all the young people agree with this. Yeah. They see someone else in the news and go, oh, most people agree with this, but we know they don't. So until politicians are unelected because of it, and I think we're going to get to a stage in the next couple of years, if things don't change, we're going to have demonstrations on the streets.
No, definitely.
I'm old enough to remember the early 80s when we had the police fighting the miners. So people are too young for this. I don't mean protests by the miners, I mean battles. It looked like medieval battles.
I've seen the footage, yeah.
Smashing miners throwing bricks at police, dropping concrete posts off motorway bridges to kill people.
Really?
This was the early 80s.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was like medieval battles. We risk going back to that if we don't get a grip of the financial crisis, the living crisis we've got at the moment. That will change politicians' minds. I'm not advocating for this. I hope we can get and solve this problem before that. But politicians are always behind the curve.
Well, our most recent polling, the Car 26 polling, showed that 62%, this was a couple of months ago, of people that expressed an opinion want a referendum on net zero policy. 62%. I mean, that's not an insignificant amount. So it just going into what you were saying about people being really disenchanted. And if you can't vote people out, what then?
We need a campaign of saying to people, we need to vote for none of the above. And people need to write on their ballot papers, put an extra square on it and vote none of the above and tick that square.
Yeah.
If we had 15, 20% of the populace doing that, politicians would see that and go, oh, if I had that 20% of spoilt ballots, I'd win.
Yeah.
You change politicians by making them understand if they follow your point of view, that's how they get elected or keep their seat.
Yeah.
As a democracy, we become very lazy. We're always blaming politicians, we're always blaming somebody else. But do you know who's to blame in our country for all this?
Us.
We are.
Yeah.
We live in a democracy.
Yeah.
And for everyone who doesn't vote, for everyone who just says, I vote Labour, I vote Conservative, and don't understand their policies, you're to blame because they're doing it in your name.
Yeah.
Until we take our democracy seriously and we start standing up and telling people what we want and how we're going to get it, then politicians will make it all up as they go along. And we're to blame. I'm sick of people wanting to blame someone else. We're to blame. We live in a democracy.
But going back to what we were talking about before, people that are on the streets that you work with that have complicated mental health issues, how do you instill that philosophy of being self-reliant and everything into people that have got so many different things going on that they need help?
Yeah. It's really, really difficult work.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
We have more, well, like I said, we're not running this project anymore, but when we're running this project, we had more failures and successes because it's really, we're not medical workers.
No.
But how you change these individuals who are fellow citizens, by the way. I'm tired of people going, let's just write them off. I don't want to write anybody off.
You don't write any human being off. No.
Exactly. It takes time. You've got to build up their self-confidence, their self-worth. You start off by having conversations with them. You start off by trying to get them into a building rather than sitting on the street talking to them.
Yeah.
Like a rat. Well, let's get them sat down at a table and chairs and kind of a serious conversation.
Civilised.
That's step one.
Yeah, okay.
Step two is let's give them something to choose. Do you want a tea or do you want a coffee?
Yeah.
Don't just give them something you think they want. Ask them what they would like.
Yeah.
Again, they realise then, oh, I had a choice there and I made a choice. And that influenced my life a little bit because I got a cup of tea because I don't like coffee.
No.
That subconsciously makes them realise.
I don't take sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, just things like that. Yeah.
That subconsciously makes them understand that their choices can influence the outside world. That's your second step. And the third step really is what things like, help for their drug addictions. They're all drug addicts because that's how they cope with their poor mental health. That's how you end up on the streets. But, the best way we found was eventually, not straight away, but eventually getting people jobs.
Okay.
And before COVID, we had a dozen building sites in Man City Centre who would give us labouring jobs on their site.
What, just ad hoc?
Just ad hoc.
That's great,
They knew who these people were. They'd have to pass the health and safety and stuff like that to make it legal. Yeah. But then they would get a job, they'd have so many chances, employees would ring us up going, he's late again today, and we'd have to go down and speak to the person.
Right.
But what you find is when the ones that worked out, they suddenly had self-respect. I'm earning my money.
Yeah.
And the best thing about that is the day they get their first paycheck. I always got there's two things come out of their first paycheck. They open it and they go, and I go, what are you going to do with your money? And the first thing they always say is, I'm going to go shopping and buy some food. I go, oh, right, why? Because there's certain things I like, and I'm tired of people giving me what they think I should eat. I want to buy some things I like,
That
I know
like.
I like.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's like, wow,
Yeah.
wow. We treat you like a pet, don't we? We treat you like a household dog. We just give you and you eat it. Yeah. The second thing, and this is a really important thing now, is look at that and you go, what's this? I go, what? This PAYE? I go, oh, that's the tax you've paid. Have you seen how much they've taken off me? I go, yeah. And what they're going to do with that? I go, what?
They're interested in politics.
I said, what they're going to do with that is all your friends who are still on the streets and taking benefit. You're now paying for them, just like I've been paying for you. And they go, well, I'm not happy with that. That's how you start changing people.
Suddenly they're in society, and then they care about who they vote for.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Brilliant. Thank you.